One diamond bracelet. That's where it began for Tansy Villanueva. A simple gift from a wealthy guest that should have been reported immediately. Instead, she kept it for her brother's therapy, never imagining this first compromise would lead to murder in Dubai's most exclusive resort. The Palm Crescent Resort rose from Dubai's coastline like a mirage, curved glass and white stone embracing the Persian Gulf in a perfect crescent. From the staff entrance at precisely 5 a.m., Crisanta Tansy Villanueva emerged from the employee shuttle, her hotel-issued black suit unwrinkled despite the 90-minute commute from Al-Qua's worker housing. 28 years old with eyes that missed nothing, she moved through security with practiced efficiency, nodding to the guards who knew better than to delay her. "Morning, Miss Villanueva," said Ravi, the night security supervisor. "VIP arrival today. Mr. Hassani was asking for you specifically." "Thank you, Ravi. I'm aware." Her voice carried the musical lilt of the Philippines, softened by 5 years of elocution training provided by the resort. In the staff changing area, she opened her locker and removed her name badge, a subtle gold pin that read simply Tansy, and the small leather-bound notebook where she recorded guest preferences with meticulous precision. No digital systems for the Palm Crescent's elite clientele. Privacy was the resort's most valuable commodity. The executive butler briefing room hummed with quiet activity as Tansy took her place at the polished conference table. 15 butlers, each assigned to the resort's premier suites, reviewed the day's arriving guests. At exactly 5:30, Mr. Hassani, the butler services director, entered and stood at the head of the table. "Good morning, team. We have 4 VVIP arrivals today, including His Excellency Sheikh Mansour returning to the royal suite." He glanced down at his tablet. "And in the Peninsula Suite, we have His Highness Sheikh Majid Sultan returning for his monthly stay." Tansy kept her expression neutral, though her pulse quickened slightly. Sheikh Majid was her most demanding regular guest, requesting her specifically for each visit. "Miss Villanueva, His Highness has requested the usual preparations plus chilled Arabic coffee this time. His private jet arrives at 1,400 hours. "Yes, Mr. Hassani. I'll see to it personally." As the briefing concluded, Ananya, another butler, fell into step beside her. "Sheikh Majid again? That's the 5th month straight he's requested you." Tansy offered a professional smile. "He appreciates consistency." "He appreciates something," Ananya murmured. "Be careful. These royal family members have expectations." "He's a businessman as well as royalty," the correction came automatically. "Besides, good service is about discretion, not judgment." Ananya raised an eyebrow but said nothing more as they parted ways in the marble corridor. The Peninsula Suite occupied the entire western point of the resort's crescent, offering 360-degree views of both the Dubai skyline and the endless blue of the Gulf. Tansy spent the next 6 hours preparing it to Sheikh Majid's exacting standards. Aqua di Parma toiletries precisely arranged, room temperature set to exactly 21 degrees, specific vintages stocked in the wine refrigerator, fresh white orchids placed according to his preference, and traditional Emirati coffee service prepared alongside Western options. She checked her watch, 12:30. Time to review Sheikh Majid's file one final time. In her small office adjacent to the butler's pantry, she opened the leather binder containing her notes on all her regular guests. Sheikh Majid bin Sultan, 42. Born in Dubai, educated at Oxford and Harvard Business School. Member of the ruling family, though a distant cousin. CEO of Sultan Holdings, specializing in ultra-luxury developments across the Emirates, Maldives, and Southeast Asia. Married to Sheikha Layla bint Abdullah, 35, from another prominent Emirati family and philanthropist. No children. Monthly visitor to the resort, always without his wife, typically for 3 to 4 days of business meetings. Beneath the standard information lay Tansy's private notations. Prefers green apples, not red. Takes coffee black in the morning with cardamom afternoon. Places shoes at exactly 45-degree angles when removed. Never uses hotel stationery. Drinks tea from traditional cups. Prefers whiskey from crystal. Speaks 5 languages but reverts to Arabic when annoyed. A chirp from her phone interrupted her review. A banking notification. The monthly transfer to Miguel's Special Needs Trust in Cebu had cleared, exactly 70% of her salary plus last month's tips. She allowed herself a momentary smile, imagining her brother receiving the specialized therapy that had improved his communication skills so dramatically in the past year. The smile faded as she noted the balance remaining. Enough for rent, minimal food, and transportation. Nothing for emergencies. Nothing for the future. Miguel's autism required consistency above all. The specialized facility had transformed his life, but its costs increased annually. She tucked the phone away. Later. She would worry later. Now, Sheikh Majid required perfection. At precisely 2 p.m., the resort's helipad received a sleek black helicopter with the distinctive green and gold markings of the Sultan family crest. Tansy stood at the entrance to the Peninsula Suite as Mr. Hassani personally escorted their royal VIP guests down the private elevator and through the exclusive corridor accessible only to the resort's highest-paying clients. "Your Highness, welcome back to Palm Crescent," she said with a perfect bow. Exactly 15 degrees, the angle of respect without subservience that the resort demanded, though slightly deeper than for regular guests out of respect for his royal status. Sheikh Majid been moved with the easy confidence of someone born into privilege but sharpened by his own achievements. 6 feet tall with a neatly trimmed beard and penetrating dark eyes, he wore traditional Emirati dress. A pristine white kandura with a perfectly draped gutra secured by a simple black agal. Despite the traditional attire, his Patek Philippe watch and Italian leather sandals spoke to his cosmopolitan taste. "Tansy," he said, using her name with the casual ownership that came naturally to royalty. "A pleasure to see you again. I trust everything is prepared." "Of course, Your Highness. The suite is exactly as you prefer. Your requested Arabic coffee service is ready. I've taken the liberty of arranging your usual lunch to be ready when you wish." Hassani nodded approvingly before excusing himself, leaving Tansy to complete the arrival ritual. A brief tour of the suite as though Sheikh Majid hadn't stayed in it a dozen times before, followed by a demonstration of any technology updates, culminating in her ceremonial presentation of the suite's private butler phone. "If you need anything at all, day or night, press 1 and I will answer personally. You also have my resort mobile number programmed as the first contact." Sheikh Majid took the phone, his fingers brushing against hers for a fraction longer than necessary. "Your service is always impeccable, Tansy. I've stayed in the finest hotels around the world, from London to Tokyo, but no one anticipates needs quite like you." "Thank you, Your Highness. The Palm Crescent prides itself on personalized attention. It's not the hotel, it's you specifically." His dark eyes held hers for a moment. "You remember that I prefer the green apples sliced, not whole. That I take cardamom in my afternoon coffee but never in the morning. That my kanduras should be pressed with light starch. These details matter to me. It's my job to remember, Your Highness. And your family in the Philippines? Your brother? How is he?" The question, delivered casually as he moved to the window, caught her off guard. She had mentioned Miguel only once, months ago, when Sheikh Majid had asked why she had chosen Dubai over other luxury markets. Well, thank you for asking. The specialized program has been very beneficial. Autism requires consistent care, I understand. Expensive, I imagine." "Yes, Your Highness," she answered carefully, "but worth every sacrifice." Sheikh Majid turned from the window, sunlight silhouetting his figure. "Admirable dedication. Family obligations are sacred, aren't they? We do what we must for those who depend on us. It's the same principle in Emirati culture." He smiled again, the expression not quite reaching his eyes. "I have meetings until dinner. I'll take that lunch in 30 minutes. "Yes, Your Highness. Will you be dining in this evening?" "No. Meeting at Nobu. But I'll require breakfast at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Join me to review my schedule for the week." "Of course, Your Highness." As she exited the suite, Tansy released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Something in his mention of Miguel had unsettled her. The casual display of remembering this personal detail, certainly, but something more. A subtle shift in dynamic, perhaps. The wealthy often believed that knowing the smallest fact about their servants' lives constituted genuine interest, but with royalty, it carried an additional weight of expectation. 3 months passed in the meticulous rhythm of luxury service, marked by Sheikh Majid's monthly visits, each lasting precisely 4 days. The Bulgari bracelet remained unworn in Tansy's apartment, hidden in a locked drawer, neither returned nor reported. Each time she rehearsed the speech to return it, some new piece of information about Miguel's needs would arrive. Increased therapy costs, new educational materials, specialized equipment, and the drawer would remain locked. October brought Sheikh Majid's 4th visit since the bracelet incident. As Tansy prepared the peninsula suite, she noticed the butler team leader watching her with unusual scrutiny. "Is something wrong, James?" she asked, arranging the orchids precisely. "Mr. Hassani asked me to inform you that His Highness has requested your exclusive service during this stay," James replied, his British accent doing little to mask his disapproval. "No other butler is to enter the peninsula suite." "I see." Tansy kept her face neutral, though her pulse quickened slightly. "That's unusual." "Indeed. I expressed concern about the overtime requirements, but Mr. Hassani insisted the guests' preferences take priority." James hesitated. "Tansy, you've been here long enough to understand these situations. Be careful. Royal family members operate by different rules." "I always am," she replied evenly. "It's simply a guest who prefers consistency." James raised an eyebrow but said nothing more. When Sheikh Majid arrived that afternoon, he brought only a small leather weekender bag, his custom during these visits. His business meetings required formal attire, but he preferred to use the resort's shopping service rather than travel with extensive luggage. "Tansy," he greeted her, his smile warmer than usual. "I've been looking forward to returning. Abu Dhabi was tedious, full of people who promise much and deliver little. Unlike you." "Thank you, Your Highness. I've prepared everything as you prefer." After the arrival ritual, he surprised her by lingering rather than immediately taking business calls. "I've arranged something special this time, a calligraphy piece by a renowned Emirati artist for the suite. It should arrive this evening." He gestured to the entry hall. "Have it placed there, please, and oversee the installation personally." "Of course, Your Highness." That evening, the promised artwork arrived, an exquisite piece of Arabic calligraphy on handcrafted paper, delivered by a private art handler who insisted on Tansy's signature rather than general resort acceptance. She supervised its placement in the entry hall, where light caught the gold leaf lettering, the flowing script reading a verse from Rumi about beauty and truth. "Perfect," came Sheikh Majid's voice from behind her. He had returned early from his dinner, catching her still arranging the lighting. "What do you think?" "It's beautiful," she answered honestly. "The calligraphy is extraordinary. I commissioned it specifically for this space. The verse speaks of finding truth in unexpected places." He moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could smell his expensive oud-based cologne. "Art should be experienced intimately, don't you think? Mass viewings in museums dilute the connection." "I wouldn't know, Your Highness. My experience with fine art is limited to what I've seen in the suites here." "A travesty. Someone with your eye for detail should have greater exposure." He gestured toward the living area. "I've opened a bottle of Chateau Margaux. Join me for a glass. I'd value your opinion on another acquisition I'm considering." Every protocol warned against accepting such an invitation. And yet, the request came with the quiet authority of someone unaccustomed to refusal, and the additional weight of royal status. A direct no could offend, jeopardizing both her position and the substantial tips that supplemented Miguel's care. "Just one glass, Your Highness. I still have evening duties to complete." In the living area, Sheikh Majid had indeed opened an exceptional vintage, already poured into 2 crystal glasses. He handed her one, then retrieved his tablet, bringing up images of another piece, a modern sculpture that would sit in his private majlis. "The companion piece," he explained, "designed for my residence in Emirates Hills. Layla finds it too contemporary, but I think it captures something essential about our nation, honoring tradition while embracing the future." As they discussed the artwork, Sheikh Majid subtly shifted the conversation toward Tansy herself. Her background, her 5 years at Palm Crescent, her aspirations beyond service. Questions no guest had bothered to ask before, delivered with what seemed like genuine interest, though tinged with the expectation that of course she would share anything he wished to know. "You're wasted as a butler," he said finally, refilling her glass despite her protest. "Your attention to detail, your discretion, your understanding of luxury expectations. These are valuable skills in my organization. I'm very satisfied with my position, Your Highness." "Majid," he corrected. "When we're alone, you may call me Majid. We've known each other long enough to move past such formality." The invitation hung in the air between them, a recategorization, an offered familiarity that blurred professional boundaries and carried the implicit understanding that refusing a royal's offer of informality could be seen as an insult. "I should prepare your turn-down service, Your Highness." Tansy placed her half-finished wine on the table and stood, maintaining the formal address as a small barrier. Sheikh Majid made no move to stop her, but his eyes held hers with unexpected intensity. "Of course, but consider what I've said. Talent deserves proper recognition and compensation. In our culture, we believe in rewarding loyalty and excellence." Later that night, after completing her extended duties, Tansy found another blue box in her locker, larger this time. Inside lay a Mont Blanc fountain pen in rose gold, engraved with her initials, and a small card bearing the Sultan family crest. The accompanying note read simply, "For your continuing education courses. Quality tools for quality work. K." She had mentioned her online business management classes only briefly during their conversation. Once again, his attention to detail unsettled her. Once again, she neither reported nor returned the gift. The next morning, Sheikh Majid requested breakfast on his private terrace rather than the dining room, specifying Tansy's presence to discuss his schedule. When she arrived with the service, she found him reviewing documents, having just returned from his morning prayers. He wore a casual kandura, his gutra draped loosely around his shoulders. "My afternoon meetings have been cancelled," he announced without looking up. "I'll be working from the suite instead. Ensure we aren't disturbed." "Yes, Your Highness. Would you like lunch arranged?" "Yes, for 2. I'll have a business associate joining me." He finally looked up, catching her expression. "Someone from the family business. The usual arrangements." Throughout the day, Tansy maintained her professional demeanor while navigating the shifting dynamics. Sheikh Majid worked from the terrace, occasionally requesting coffee or water, each time engaging her in brief but increasingly personal conversation. "The pen suits you," he commented, noticing it clipped to her butler's portfolio. "Rose gold complements your complexion." "It's very fine, Your Highness, though I should remind you that accepting gifts violates hotel policy." "Yes." He waved away her concern. "A policy designed to prevent exploitation, not recognition of exceptional service. But we needn't discuss it if it makes you uncomfortable." His lunch guest arrived at precisely 1 p.m., a stern-looking Emirati man in traditional dress who barely acknowledged Tansy's existence as she served their meal. They spoke entirely in Arabic, their conversation punctuated by occasional laughter. Once, she caught her name mentioned, followed by a comment that made both men chuckle. As she cleared the plates, the associate departed, leaving Sheikh Majid alone once more. He stopped her as she prepared to remove the final items. "Sultan was impressed by your efficiency," he said. "He said I've trained you well, though I told him you arrived that way. I'm glad the lunch was satisfactory, Your Highness." "More than satisfactory." He studied her for a moment. "You understood some of our conversation, didn't you? You've been studying Arabic." Tansy hesitated before acknowledging the truth. "Basic phrases only. The resort encourages us to learn key hospitality terms in multiple languages." "Impressive initiative." He closed the portfolio he'd been reviewing. "I'd like to go swimming before my evening engagement. Join me on the terrace at 5 for tea to discuss my requirements for tomorrow's departure." The invitation, phrased as a professional request but clearly extending beyond it, hung between them. This was the moment to establish a clear boundary, to reclaim the professional distance that had been steadily eroding over the past months. Instead, Tansy heard herself reply, "Of course, Your Highness. 5 o'clock." That evening, she removed her name badge before entering the Peninsula suite, a small but significant breach of protocol. Sheikh Majid was waiting on the terrace, fresh from swimming, now dressed in a casual linen thobe, watching the sunset paint the Dubai skyline in gold and crimson. "Perfect timing," he said, gesturing to the traditional Arabic coffee service alongside modern tea. "A spectacular view deserves proper appreciation." As he poured, Tansy remained standing rather than taking a seat, maintaining this final vestige of professional separation. "Tomorrow's departure," she prompted. "You mentioned specific requirements?" "Ah yes, business first." He handed her a delicate cup of Arabic tea. "I'll be leaving at 11 rather than 9. Arrange the helicopter accordingly. And I'd like to extend my reservation for next month by 2 days. Personal time rather than business." "I'll make the arrangements," she replied, taking the tea but not drinking. "You're still uncomfortable," he observed. "With this," he gestured between them, "the shifting parameters. Professional boundaries exist for good reasons, Your Highness." "Majid," he corrected again. "And yes, they do. They protect institutions, not individuals." He moved closer, his expression softening. "Do you know why I request you specifically, Tansy? Not just your efficiency or attention to detail, impressive as they are. It's that you're the only real person I encounter in my world." She raised an eyebrow. "Real, authentic, unaffected." He touched her arm lightly. "Do you know what my life consists of? Sycophants, social climbers, business rivals, those seeking royal favor. People who want something from me, influence, contracts, status. Even Layla married me for what I represent, uniting two prominent families. Mutually beneficial. I'm sure that's not. It is. Our marriage was arranged by our families. Beneficial for everyone except perhaps us." His fingers trailed down to her wrist, just brushing the skin. "But with you there's something refreshing. No artifice. No agenda beyond doing your work well." The irony of his statement, delivered in a 5-star resort where every interaction was choreographed for the comfort of the wealthy, was not lost on Tansy. And yet, something in his vulnerability seemed genuine, a glimpse behind the royal facade. "You barely know me," she said quietly. "I know enough." His thumb traced circles on her inner wrist. "I know you sacrifice everything for your brother, that you're studying business management online despite working 16-hour days, that you speak 4 languages but still think in Cebuano when you're tired, that you notice everything but judge nothing." The accuracy of his observations was both flattering and alarming. His attention to these details suggested an interest beyond the casual exploitation she'd initially suspected. Or perhaps, more disturbingly, a more sophisticated form of it, one practiced by those accustomed to having entire intelligence networks at their disposal. "And what exactly are you proposing, Your Highness?" she asked directly, finally meeting his gaze. "An arrangement that benefits us both. Discretion, companionship during my stays, appropriate compensation for your time and attention." He set down his cup. "Nothing that compromises your position here, I assure you, and everything handled with the utmost care. I have resources that ensure privacy." The offer, finally articulated, should have offended her. Instead, Tansy found herself performing the same calculation that had kept the bracelet in her drawer, weighing dignity against necessity, principle against pragmatism. Miguel's latest therapy assessment had recommended additional specialized equipment. The care facility's fees would increase again in January. Her education costs were stretching her budget beyond sustainability. "I should go," she said, placing her untouched tea on the table. "Your departure arrangements will be confirmed by morning." Sheikh Majid made no move to stop her, his expression unreadable. "Of course. Thank you for your time, Tansy." She had almost reached the door when his voice stopped her. "The special needs trust you've established for Miguel, it's an excellent structure. Very forward-thinking, but underutilized currently." She turned slowly. How do you know about that? As I said, I make it my business to understand the people who matter to me. He remained by the railing, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Such trusts typically require substantial funding to provide long-term security. Something to consider in your calculations. I have advisors who could ensure it's properly structured and funded. The implication was clear. He had researched not just her background but her financial arrangements for Miguel. The extent of this knowledge should have terrified her. Someone with royal connections would have access to information networks most people couldn't imagine. Instead, it created a strange sense of being truly seen. Her struggles, her sacrifices, her fears for the future acknowledged rather than invisible. "Good night, Your Highness," she said finally. "Good night, Tansy." His voice followed her through the doorway. "I'll see you in the morning." In the elevator, she leaned against the wall, eyes closed. The boundary had not yet been crossed, but it had been defined, illuminated, presented as a threshold she might choose to step over rather than a line to defend. And worst of all, she was considering it. December arrived in Dubai with the perfect weather that drew wealthy Europeans and Gulf visitors. Tansy moved through the Palm Crescent with mechanical precision, her public performance flawless despite the private compromise that had transformed her life. 2 months had passed since she had first accepted Sheikh Majid's arrangement. A decision made through incremental concessions that culminated in her appearing at his door after hours. Name badge removed, rationalization firmly in place. "You're distracted today," observed Ananya as they prepared service trays. "That's not like you." "Just holiday stress," Tansy replied, arranging dates and Arabic suites with geometric precision. "Nothing to do with His Highness's arrival this afternoon? His 6th consecutive month requesting your exclusive service. People are talking, you know. Let them talk. It's just a demanding guest who appreciates consistency. A demanding royal who leaves Bulgari in your locker and requests private dinners in his suite? Tansy, I'm saying this as a friend. Whatever's happening, be careful. Men like him have entire families and social structures to protect. We're disposable." Tansy couldn't entirely dismiss the warning. The past months had brought significant changes. A new apartment, substantial deposits to Miguel's trust, designer clothing she justified as necessary for her improved position. She had created a careful narrative, promotions, better tips, online consulting work, plausible explanations for her rapidly improving circumstances. The reality was both simpler and more complicated. Sheikh Majid had been as good as his word regarding appropriate compensation. Expensive jewelry left accidentally, cash transfers labeled as consulting fees, arrangements with the resort's luxury boutique to provide clothing on account, all delivered with the casual largesse of a man to whom such amounts were trivial, backed by the kind of discretion that royal wealth could ensure. More disorienting were the emotional changes. Their time had evolved beyond transactional intimacy into something that sometimes felt genuine. Conversations about art and philosophy, his surprising knowledge of Filipino history, his seemingly sincere interest in Miguel's progress. During his November visit, he had arranged a video call with Miguel's therapists, asking detailed questions and authorizing additional equipment without Tansy even having to ask. "Your brother deserves the best care available," he had said afterward, as they lay in the massive bed of the Peninsula suite. "Perhaps we should consider bringing him to Dubai. There's an excellent facility in Healthcare City. I could arrange everything: visa, housing, specialized staff." At precisely 2 p.m., the familiar helicopter with the Sultan family crest announced Sheikh Majid's arrival. Tansy stood at the entrance to the Peninsula suite, her professional mask firmly in place as Mr. Hassani escorted the royal VIP guest down the private corridor. "Tansy," Sheikh Majid greeted her, his smile genuine. "Dubai's winter suits you. You look radiant. Welcome back, Your Highness. I trust your flight was comfortable." Once alone, Sheikh Majid's demeanor softened. He approached, placing his hands on her shoulders and kissing her cheek with practiced familiarity. "I've missed you." The family gathering in Abu Dhabi was interminable this time. "The suite is prepared exactly as you prefer," she replied, neither acknowledging nor rejecting his statement. "I've brought something for Miguel." a special communication device developed by a technology company in which my family has invested. It's designed specifically for nonverbal autistic adults. The latest prototype. Tansy felt the familiar mixture of gratitude and discomfort. His generosity toward Miguel seemed genuine, yet she couldn't shake the sensation that it created a deeper obligation than any gift he gave her directly. That evening, as Tansy prepared to leave staff quarters for her routine visit to the Peninsula Suite, she received a video call from Cebu. Miguel appeared on screen, his face alight with excitement as he demonstrated his new communication device, already delivered and programmed by technicians who had arrived unannounced. "Look," Miguel said, his speech still halting but clearer than before. "I can talk to you now." "It's wonderful, Miguel," she replied, blinking back unexpected tears. The facility director appeared beside him. "Ms. Villanueva, this technology is extraordinary. The customization for Miguel's specific needs. I've never seen anything like it. The manufacturer says it was specially commissioned. A gift from a benefactor. Someone who understands Miguel's needs." At the Peninsula Suite, Sheikh Majid greeted her with champagne and news that his business ventures in Bahrain had secured final approval. "Which brings me to something I wanted to discuss. A proposition of sorts." Tansy tensed slightly. Their arrangement had settled into a predictable rhythm that allowed her to maintain some semblance of separate identity. Any change threatened that precarious balance. "I'm developing a new ultra-luxury resort in Ras Al Khaimah," he continued. "I need someone to oversee guest experience development. Someone with impeccable standards, understanding of ultra-luxury expectations, and discretion. I'd like to offer you the position." "A job? Working for your company? Director of Guest Experience. Proper salary, benefits, housing. Why the surprise? I've told you repeatedly that your talents are wasted here. But I'm not qualified. You have 5 years' experience at one of the world's most exclusive resorts. You have practical knowledge that can't be taught in business school. And you have my complete confidence." The offer was both flattering and alarming. Working directly for Sheikh Majid would eliminate the compartmentalization she had carefully maintained. "What about my brother? My obligations in the Philippines?" "Naturally, the position includes relocation assistance. Miguel could receive world-class care here in Dubai, with you nearby rather than half a world away. I've already had my staff research the best facilities. Everything would be arranged." Later that night, as Sheikh Majid slept beside her, Tansy stared at the ceiling, mind racing. The job offer represented legitimate opportunity, a path from service to management, a title she could put on a resume. It would transform her relationship with Sheikh Majid from hidden arrangement to professional association. More respectable, more equal. Yet something about it felt like a trap. A gilded cage, beautiful but confining. Every time she established a boundary, he simply absorbed it into a new, more comprehensive offer. Her phone vibrated with a message. Expecting the night butler, she was surprised to see an unknown number with a UAE country code. The message contained a single sentence in English. "Ask him about Noor in Abu Dhabi." Before she could consider its meaning, a second message arrived. A photograph showing Sheikh Majid at what appeared to be a private family gathering. His arm around his wife Sheikha Layla, both smiling warmly. The timestamp indicated it had been taken 3 days ago, when he had supposedly been in business meetings. A third message arrived. "You are not the only real person in his life. Little Filipina toy. Women like you are entertainment. We are family." The phrase hit her like a physical blow. Little Filipina toy. Words she had never heard directly, but which resonated with sickening familiarity. Had he used these exact words to describe her to someone else? Or was this psychological warfare from a jealous relative, a rival, perhaps even his wife? Of course members of his social circle would know. Royal families had eyes everywhere. Men of his status and position lived by different rules, created different realities, told different stories to different audiences. She had known this from the beginning but had allowed herself to believe she was the exception. Dawn found her sitting in the living area, composed and dressed in her butler uniform, name badge perfectly positioned. When Sheikh Majid emerged from the bedroom, she was arranging breakfast with professional precision. "You're up early," he observed, studying her. "And back in uniform. Everything all right?" "Perfectly fine, Your Highness. I have early duties this morning. Your breakfast is prepared as you prefer." He approached, attempting to kiss her, but she stepped back subtly. "Tansy? What's wrong?" "Nothing at all, Your Highness. Will you be requiring the car at 9 as usual?" January brought cooler temperatures to Dubai and increasingly complicated dynamics to the Peninsula suite. Following the anonymous messages, Tansy had retreated into professional formality, creating distance that both confused and intrigued Sheikh Majid. "You're overthinking this," he said during his January visit. "Anonymous messages could come from anyone with motive to disrupt our arrangement. My wife, a business rival, even family members who disapprove of my private affairs." "The timing of the family gathering," Tansy countered. "You told me you were in business meetings that day." "I was. For meetings earlier that day. The family event was in the evening. A brief appearance I didn't mention because it wasn't relevant to our time together. These are separate parts of my life." His explanations were always plausible, always delivered with perfect balance of reasonable detail and slight indignation. "The Ras Al Khaimah position remains open," he continued. "Legitimate, professional, with appropriate boundaries." "I need more time," she said finally. "Of course. Take all the time you need." But time was running short. The care facility in Cebu had notified her of another fee increase, 30% this time, justified by enhanced therapeutic services. Without Sheikh Majid's funds, she couldn't maintain Miguel's current level of care. February arrived with Sheikh Majid's scheduled visit coinciding with the resort's busiest season. The Peninsula suite had been booked solid by another royal family member, requiring him to accept the slightly less prestigious Royal Mariner suite. The change in location seemed trivial, but it disrupted the careful ecosystem they had established. "It's perfectly adequate," he said during check-in, though his tight smile betrayed his displeasure. As a member of the ruling family, even being displaced to a lesser suite, however luxurious, represented a subtle loss of face. The Royal Mariner suite lacked the complete privacy of the peninsula. Its position meant more staff traffic, more potential witnesses to Tansy's after-hours visits. This increased visibility heightened her awareness of the professional risks she was taking. On the second night of his stay, as Tansy performed turn-down service, Sheikh Majid emerged from his shower wearing only a towel, droplets of water still clinging to his shoulders. "I thought we might discuss the Ras Al Khaimah project tonight," he said, moving to the closet as though his semi-nudity were entirely appropriate. "The architects have submitted revised plans. I'd value your input." "I'm on duty until 11, Your Highness," she replied, keeping her eyes on the bed she was turning down. "And I have early responsibilities tomorrow." "Cancel them." The request came with casual entitlement. "Hassani can assign someone else." "That's not how it works, Your Highness. We're at full capacity." He emerged from the closet in a silk lounging thobe, his expression shifting to calculated assessment. "You've become quite rigid about protocols lately. One might think you're having second thoughts about our arrangement." "I'm simply being professional during working hours, Your Highness. As we agreed." "Did we?" I recall discussing discretion, not artificial distance. In the service elevator afterward, Tansy leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. Each interaction had become a negotiation between maintaining her livelihood and reclaiming her autonomy. The Ras Al Khaimah position loomed as both opportunity and ultimatum: accept his professional offer or lose his financial support for Miguel's care. Back in her locker, she found an envelope containing 5,000 dirhams, approximately $1,400. No note, no explanation needed. Another reminder of the transactional nature of their relationship. She should have reported it immediately. Instead, she slipped it into her bag, hating herself for the relief she felt. Miguel's medication had recently changed, adding another expense. The cash would cover this month's shortfall perfectly. The following morning, Tansy arrived at the Royal Mariner suite at 6:30 a.m. to prepare Sheikh Majid's breakfast. As she arranged the service, she noticed his safe was partially open, unusual for a man methodical about security. More surprising was the jewelry case visible inside, clearly containing pieces for his wife. Curiosity overcoming propriety, she glanced toward the bedroom door, still closed, shower running, and moved closer to the safe. The black velvet case was embossed with the insignia of a prestigious Dubai jeweler. Inside lay a pair of exceptional diamond earrings, each stone at least 3 carats, surrounded by smaller emeralds. A small card noted they were a royal commission valued at approximately $300,000. An anniversary gift, came Sheikh Majid's voice from behind her, causing her to startle. Do you think she'll like them? Tansy stepped away from the safe, embarrassment flooding her face. I apologize, Your Highness. The safe was open, and I was concerned about security. Of course you were. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Always the consummate professional. He approached, closing the safe with a decisive click. 15 years of marriage next week. Quite an accomplishment, especially in our circles where such arrangements can be complicated. The casual mention of his marriage, something he typically avoided discussing with her, felt deliberately cruel. Congratulations, Your Highness. Will you be dining in this morning? Yes. Join me, won't you? We have matters to discuss. As they ate, Sheikh Majid outlined his upcoming travel schedule: Abu Dhabi, London, Singapore, then back to Dubai. Finally, he placed his napkin beside his plate and fixed her with a direct gaze. The Ras Al Khaimah position requires a decision, Tansy. The project breaks ground next month. I'm still considering it, Your Highness. It's a significant change. Indeed, from service staff to director, from sending money to your brother to bringing him here for proper care. He sipped his coffee. One might think these improvements would make the decision straightforward. It's not that simple. No? His tone hardened slightly. Then perhaps you should explain, because I'm offering you everything you've worked for. Security for your brother. Career advancement. What exactly is holding you back? I'm not comfortable with how our personal and professional relationships have become entangled. The position feels like an extension of our arrangement rather than a genuine opportunity. I see. So you believe I would offer a critical position in a multimillion dirham project as some sort of elaborate kept woman scenario? That I would risk a major investment to maintain a convenient arrangement? He laughed without humor. You flatter yourself, Tansy. This is business. The deliberate cruelty struck her like a physical blow. In one sentence, he had reduced their months of intimacy to a convenience, dismissed her concerns as vanity, and reminded her of the vast gulf between their positions. That's not what The offer remains open until my departure tomorrow. After that, I'll pursue other candidates. He checked his watch. I have meetings until dinner. Ensure the car is ready at 8:30. After he left, Tansy remained at the table, mind racing with impossible calculations. Refusing the Ras Al Khaimah position would almost certainly end their arrangement, eliminating the income essential to Miguel's care. Accepting it would place her entirely under Sheikh Majid's influence. As she cleared the breakfast service, her gaze returned to the safe. $300,000. Enough to fund Miguel's trust for years, to secure his care regardless of fee increases, to free her from dependence on Sheikh Majid's interest. The thought that formed was not a plan but a desperate calculation, a weighing of unthinkable options against impossible circumstances. She would never actually do it. She wasn't a thief. She was just a woman trapped in a situation spiraling beyond control. Yet that evening, as she prepared the suite for his return from dinner, she found herself observing the safe with new attention, noting how he entered the combination with practiced efficiency. Information absorbed over months of proximity. He would be leaving tomorrow, taking the earrings with him. Opportunity closing. She would never actually do it, never cross that line. But that night, alone in her apartment, she found herself researching flights to Manila, planning theoretical escape routes. Just hypotheticals. Just desperate imagination. The final morning of Sheikh Majid's stay, Tansy arrived early to prepare his departure. The suite was silent, his schedule indicating a breakfast meeting offsite before returning for checkout. The opportunity presented itself with terrifying clarity. A 30-minute window where the suite would be empty, the safe containing valuables he wouldn't check until his return to Dubai. She would never actually do it. She wasn't a thief. But as she moved through the suite, her fingers brushed against the safe keypad. Numbers she had memorized without intending to. A combination that would give her access to security for Miguel's future. Freedom from Sheikh Majid's influence. Just one item from a man who wouldn't miss it financially. Just the earrings. Just enough to secure Miguel's care and disappear. Her heart pounding, Tansy entered the combination. The safe clicked open. The earrings nestled in black velvet seemed to pulse with dangerous energy as Tansy stared into the open safe. $300,000 of flawless diamonds and emeralds. A casual gift from a man whose family wealth was measured in billions. The disparity made her decision simultaneously unforgivable and somehow justified. With trembling hands, she lifted the case from the safe. It was heavier than expected, the weight of genuine luxury different from the costume jewelry she had known all her life. She opened it once more, confirming the reality of what she was about to do, then snapped it shut and slipped it into her uniform pocket. The safe closed with the same soft click that had opened it, leaving no visible evidence of her transgression. She completed her morning duties with mechanical precision. Fresh flowers arranged, breakfast tray removed, bed linen straightened. Her mind detached from her actions as though observing herself from a distance. Back in her staff locker, she transferred the earring case into her handbag, buried beneath tissues and makeup. Her afternoon schedule showed a 4-hour break before evening turn-down service. Time she had planned to use for her online business management course. Now it would serve a different purpose. As she signed out for her break, the security supervisor nodded casually. "Enjoy your lunch, Miss Villanueva." "Thank you, Ahmed," she replied, her voice remarkably steady considering the contraband in her bag. "I'll be back by 5. The taxi took her not to her apartment but to Gold Souk in Dera, the old part of Dubai where narrow alleys housed hundreds of jewelry shops ranging from tourist traps to exclusive private dealers. She had researched her destination carefully. Mahajan Jewelers, a third-generation Indian family business known for discretion and fair prices in secondary market transactions. "I have something to sell," she told the elderly proprietor, placing the case on the velvet-covered counter. "I need to know its value." Mr. Mahajan examined the earrings with professional detachment, using a jeweler's loupe to inspect each stone. "Royal Commission," he noted, recognizing the jeweler's mark. "Very fine quality. Do you have the certificate of authenticity?" "No, just the earrings," Tansy replied, heart pounding. He studied her face, then the earrings again. "Without documentation and given the sensitive nature of such pieces, I can offer perhaps 60% of market value. 200,000 dirhams. Approximately $55,000. Less than she had hoped, but enough. Enough to secure Miguel's care for 2 years. Enough to disappear and start over. "I'll take it," she said, the decision made. "Cash transaction of this size requires certain discretion," he replied carefully. "There will be forms. Identification required. And I must be frank, jewelry bearing Royal Commission marks raises questions. Are you certain about this transaction?" Before she could answer, her phone vibrated. A message from her supervisor. Sheikh Majid requesting immediate assistance in suite. Return ASAP. Her blood froze. He wasn't supposed to return until checkout. His breakfast meeting should have lasted another hour at least. Had he discovered the theft already? Had some security system she wasn't aware of notified him? "I'm sorry," she told Mr. Mahajan when he returned with papers. "I need to reconsider. May I return later today?" The jeweler's expression revealed nothing as he returned the case, though his eyes held something that might have been relief. "As you wish, miss. We close at 9. But perhaps reconsider whether this is wise." The taxi ride back to Palm Crescent felt eternal. Every traffic light an eternity. Every slow-moving vehicle an intentional obstacle. The earrings burned in her bag like a radioactive element, their presence simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. She hadn't actually sold them. She could still return them. Claim she had removed them for safekeeping when she noticed the safe ajar. Plausible explanation. At the resort, she hurried through staff security, grateful that her regular schedule meant no unusual questions about her return. In the service elevator, she removed the earring case from her bag and slipped it back into her uniform pocket, more accessible for quick return. Outside the Royal Mariner suite, she paused to compose herself, drawing a deep breath before knocking professionally. "Enter," came Sheikh Majid's voice, cold and precise. He stood by the window, silhouetted against the afternoon sun, his posture rigid with controlled anger. On the coffee table lay his tablet, displaying what appeared to be security camera footage. "Your Highness," she began, her rehearsed explanation ready. "You requested." "Sit down, Tansy." The command cut through her words like a blade. "We have a situation to discuss." She perched on the edge of the sofa, hands folded in her lap, inches from the pocket containing the stolen earrings. "It seems," he said, turning from the window, "that I've misplaced something valuable. A gift for my wife. Black case, Royal Commission. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Her mouth went dry. "Your Highness, I—" "Before you answer," he interrupted, "you should know that the Royal Mariner suite, unlike the Peninsula, has comprehensive security monitoring, including this." He tapped the tablet and the footage began to play. Tansy at the safe that morning, clearly removing something and placing it in her pocket. Her face perfectly visible, her actions unmistakable. "I can explain," she said, her voice barely audible. "Can you?" His tone remained conversational, almost curious. "Can you explain betraying my trust? Stealing from me after all I've done for you and your brother?" He moved closer, looming over her. "After I offered you legitimacy, a real future, this is how you repay me?" The earrings felt impossibly heavy in her pocket. "I made a terrible mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly." She reached into her pocket, producing the case. "They're here, untouched. I was going to return them." Sheikh Majid took the case, examining it briefly before placing it on the table. His calmness was more terrifying than any rage would have been. "The earrings are irrelevant," he said finally. "Their value is nothing to my family. What matters is that you chose theft over my offer. That after everything, you saw me as someone to steal from rather than someone to trust." "You never wanted me to trust you," Tansy replied, finding unexpected courage in the face of certain ruin. "You wanted me to need you, to depend on you completely." The Ras Al Khaimah position wasn't an opportunity. It was ownership. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. A distinction without difference when one has nothing. He picked up his phone, pressing a single button. "Security to the Royal Mariner suite. And contact Mr. Hassani immediately." "Please," Tansy said, desperation rising. "My brother should have been your primary consideration before you decided to become a thief." He returned to the window, dismissing her with his posture. "Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. You'll be escorted from the premises and your access revoked. The resort is pressing charges for theft, breach of trust, and violation of guest privacy. Given the victim's status, I expect the authorities will treat this with appropriate seriousness." "No one will believe that," she said, grasping at straws. "Not after your special requests, your gifts. People know about our arrangement." He turned back, his smile chilling. "What arrangement?" "We have security footage of you stealing from a royal family member. Your record shows previous disciplinary issues for accepting gifts from guests." "What disciplinary issues?" "My record is perfect." It was. Until this morning, when Mr. Hassani updated it with several retroactive warnings based on incidents reported by concerned colleagues. All properly documented and witnessed. My family has considerable influence in such matters. The systematic dismantling of her defense left Tansy speechless. He had anticipated everything, prepared countermeasures before she had even taken the earrings. Had he left the safe open deliberately? Created the opportunity to test her? Or had he simply recognized her desperation and known where it would lead? A knock at the door announced security's arrival. 2 officers entered, professional but stern. Behind them came Mr. Hassani, his expression a mixture of disappointment and cold fury. "Miss Villanueva," he said formally, "these officers will escort you to collect your personal belongings, after which you will surrender your ID and leave the premises permanently. Given the serious nature of these charges involving a member of the royal family, the police have already been notified." "Mr. Hassani, please," she attempted. "Sheikh Majid and I have nothing to discuss further," Sheikh Majid interrupted. "Mr. Hassani, I expect full cooperation with the authorities. The Palm Crescent's reputation depends on addressing this breach of trust decisively." As security led her from the suite, Tansy turned back one final time. "What about Miguel? His care facility should have been your priority before you betrayed my trust," Sheikh Majid replied, his voice carrying no emotion whatsoever. "Actions have consequences, Tansy, even for people with sad stories, perhaps especially for those who forget their place." In the staff locker room, under security's watchful eyes, Tansy gathered her few belongings. Her phone buzzed with a message from the care facility in Cebu. "Urgent. Payment declined. Please contact billing immediately regarding Miguel Villanueva's account." He had already cut off the funds. The swiftness of his retaliation confirmed what she had suspected. His support had always been conditional, a leash rather than a lifeline. As she surrendered her resort ID, reality crashed down with crushing force. Not only had she lost her job, she would face criminal charges. In Dubai, theft from a royal family member would be treated with particular severity. Her work visa would be revoked. She would be deported after whatever punishment Dubai's justice system deemed appropriate. And Miguel would lose everything. Outside the resort gates, standing in the merciless afternoon sun with her small bag of possessions, Tansy felt a strange clarity descend. She had approximately 6 hours before the police would arrive at her apartment with a warrant. 6 hours to formulate a plan that might salvage something from the ruins of her life. First, she needed to secure funds for Miguel, immediately before Sheikh Majid could block her accounts or freeze her assets. She had saved nearly 20,000 dirhams in her local account, emergency funds she had been building for years. The bank was 15 minutes away by taxi. As she entered, her phone vibrated again. An email notification from Emirates NBD. Account freeze notice. Legal proceedings initiated. Too late. He had frozen her account already, using whatever connections allowed royalty to make problems disappear, or create them for others. Back on the street, options rapidly diminishing, she calculated her remaining resources. 2,000 dirhams in cash at her apartment. A few pieces of jewelry from Sheikh Majid that might fetch a few thousand more. Enough perhaps for a ticket to Manila, but not enough to secure Miguel's continued care. Her phone rang, a Dubai number she didn't recognize. She answered cautiously. "Tansy Villanueva?" A woman's voice, coolly professional. "Yes. This is Dr. Haddad from Emirates Autism Center. I'm calling regarding the withdrawal of financial support for Miguel Villanueva's specialized therapy program." Tansy leaned against a building, legs suddenly weak. "What withdrawal?" "We received notification from the Sultan Foundation that all funding is terminated effective immediately. As this represents 90% of Miguel's care costs, we need to discuss alternative arrangements urgently." Sultan Foundation. So that was how he had structured it. Not personal donations that might create inconvenient connections, but foundation philanthropy that could be redirected with a single executive decision. I'll arrange something," Tansy managed. "Please don't change his care yet. Give me 48 hours. I understand this is difficult, but without confirmed funding, we'll need to transfer Miguel to the standard care program by tomorrow." "I'm sorry." The line went dead, leaving Tansy staring at her phone in disbelief. Less than 3 hours had passed since she had opened that safe, and already Sheikh Majid had systematically dismantled her entire life. Professional, financial, and now threatening Miguel's well-being directly. The message was clear. Cross me, and everything you care about becomes a target. And I have the power to make it happen. A new determination crystallized within her. She would not allow Miguel to suffer for her mistakes. Whatever it took, whatever she had to do, she would find a way to secure his care. And then, perhaps, find a way to make Sheikh Majid Sultan understand the consequences of his own actions. Night had fallen over Dubai by the time Tansy reached her apartment. A modest place in Al Burshah that had once seemed like a significant upgrade from staff housing, but now felt like a temporary shelter in a storm. She moved methodically through her limited options, packing only essentials, gathering the few valuables she possessed. The cash hidden in her bedroom totaled 2,450 dirhams, approximately $670. The jewelry Sheikh Majid had given her over the months might fetch another 3,000 or 4,000 if she found a buyer who didn't ask questions. Enough for a one-way ticket to Manila and perhaps 2 months of Miguel's reduced care. After that, nothing. Her phone buzzed with another unfamiliar Dubai number. Against better judgment, she answered. Miss Villanueva? Lieutenant Salim, Dubai Police. We're attempting to locate you regarding allegations of theft from the Palm Crescent Resort. I understand, she replied, struggling to keep her voice steady. I can come to the station tomorrow morning to provide my statement. That would be acceptable, the officer replied, sounding mildly surprised at her cooperation. Please report to Al Burshah Police Station at 9 a.m. Your passport will be required. I should inform you that given the nature of the alleged victim status, this matter is being handled as a priority case. After ending the call, Tansy sat on her bed, staring at the wall. Reporting to the police meant certain arrest. Her version, that she had a personal relationship with Sheikh Majid, that she had intended to return the earrings, would sound like desperate fabrication against the evidence and his influence. She would be convicted, imprisoned, then deported. Miguel would be transferred to a state institution without specialized care. Unacceptable outcomes. All of them. A new notification appeared on her phone, an email from Sheikh Majid's private account, the one he used for their personal communication. The subject line read simply, Resolution. She opened it with trembling fingers. Tansy, despite your betrayal, I am not without compassion. I understand your concern for your brother. I propose the following arrangement. Return to the Royal Mariner Suite tonight at 10 p.m. through the service entrance. Security has been instructed to admit you. Perform one final service for me. Details to be discussed in person. In exchange, all charges will be dropped, and Miguel's care will continue to be funded for 6 months, giving you time to make alternative arrangements. This is a one-time offer that expires at 10:01 p.m. Choose wisely. K. The clinical precision of the email made her stomach turn. One final service. The euphemism couldn't have been clearer. He was offering to trade Miguel's security for her final humiliation, a parting reminder of her place in his world. She checked the time. 9:15 p.m. 45 minutes to decide. The rational choice was obvious. Swallow her pride. Perform whatever degrading act Sheikh Majid required. Secure Miguel's care for 6 months. Use that time to rebuild, find another position, establish a sustainable future. But something within her had broken. The careful calculations of survival that had guided her for years, the weighing of dignity against necessity, of moral compromise against practical outcomes, no longer seemed adequate. Sheikh Majid had systematically stripped her of everything except this final choice. Submit or resist. At 9:50 p.m., Tansy entered the Palm Crescent through the service entrance, her former colleagues averting their eyes as she passed. News of her disgrace had clearly spread through the staff grapevine. Security checked her ID, nodded curtly, and gestured toward the elevator. His Highness is expecting you, the guard said, his tone neutral but his expression revealing distaste. Another fallen woman, another predictable ending. The Royal Mariner Suite appeared unchanged from that morning. The scene of her fateful decision now transformed into the setting for her final degradation. Sheikh Majid stood by the terrace doors, silhouetted against the night skyline, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He had changed into a casual thobe, the white fabric pristine. Right on time, he observed without turning. I appreciate punctuality. You said you wanted to discuss terms, Tansy replied, remaining near the door, maintaining maximum distance between them. He turned finally, studying her with clinical interest. Direct as always. Very well. He gestured to an envelope on the coffee table. Inside you'll find documentation withdrawing the theft complaint, along with confirmation of continued funding for Miguel's care through the next 6 months. Everything as promised. And what exactly do you want in exchange? Her voice remained steady despite the churning in her stomach. One final night together, he replied, moving toward her with practiced confidence. A proper conclusion to our arrangement. I even took the liberty of having traditional tea prepared. He gestured to the service on the bar. Tansy didn't move, didn't soften. And afterward? I just disappear quietly? With dignity, I hope. He stopped within arm's reach. I'm not a monster, Tansy. I understand the desperation that drove you to theft. This resolution allows us both to maintain appearances, and it protects you from very serious legal consequences. Appearances, she echoed, the word hollow. That's all that matters to you, isn't it? How things look, not what they are. Something hardened in his expression. What they are is that you stole from me, that I'm offering you a way out most people in your position would be grateful for, that your brother's well-being hangs in the balance of your decision. In our culture, mercy is a virtue, but it has limits. The mention of Miguel ignited something dangerous within her. You used him against me from the beginning, researched his condition, calculated exactly how much pressure to apply. He wasn't charity to you, he was leverage. And you used me for financial gain, Sheikh Majid countered smoothly. Let's not pretend either of us occupied moral high ground in this arrangement. We had a transaction that benefited both parties. You simply became greedy. He moved to the bar, pouring tea into 2 cups. Now, shall we proceed with our final transaction? Or would you prefer I contact the care facility and inform them to proceed with Miguel's transfer to state care? And let the police proceed with their investigation. The casual cruelty, the complete confidence that she had no choice but to submit. It crystallized everything about their relationship into perfect, terrible clarity. This man had never seen her as human. From their first interaction to this final ultimatum, she had been merely a collection of vulnerabilities to be exploited, needs to be leveraged, weaknesses to be manipulated. What was I to you? She asked suddenly. Really? Was I just a convenient body? A challenge? A little Filipina toy to play with when you were bored? Something flickered in his eyes at the phrase. Recognition, perhaps surprise. You were entertainment, he replied after a moment. Diversion, like many things in my life. Surely you understood that from the beginning. The confirmation shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Not because she had harbored romantic illusions, but because the casual dismissal of months of intimacy revealed the vast gulf between their realities. What had been a life-altering relationship for her had been merely a passing amusement for him. Here, he extended a teacup toward her. Let's at least maintain civilized appearances. Tansy moved forward as if to accept the cup, then stopped at the room service trolley still positioned near the door from his earlier meal. A silver dome covered what remained of his dinner. Without conscious decision, her hand lifted the dome, revealing the remnants of an expensive steak and, beside the plate, the knife used to cut it. Is something wrong? Sheikh Majid asked, impatience edging into his tone. In one fluid motion, Tansy grasped the knife and turned. Everything is wrong, she replied, her voice unnaturally calm. Everything has been wrong from the beginning. Sheikh Majid's expression shifted from annoyance to wariness, recognizing something dangerous in her stance. Put that down, Tansy. This is childish and unnecessary. You're making this worse for yourself. Is it? She moved forward slowly, knife held with surprising steadiness. You destroyed my career, threatened my brother's care, stripped me of everything. And now you expect me to thank you for the opportunity to degrade myself one final time. He set down the tea, his movements deliberate, non-threatening. You're emotional, understandable but unproductive. Think of Miguel. Think of your future. This path leads nowhere beneficial. I have resources, security is seconds away. You don't get to invoke my brother's name anymore, she said, continuing her advance. You don't get to pretend concern while using him as a weapon against me. Something changed in Sheikh Majid's eyes, the calculation of a man accustomed to controlling situations reassessing a miscalculated risk. Final warning, Tansy. Put down the knife, accept my generous offer, and we both move forward. Otherwise, Miguel suffers the consequences of your pride. And you'll face the full weight of justice in this country, which can be very severe for those who attack royalty. The mention of her brother once more, the casual weaponization of her deepest vulnerability, broke something fundamental within her. With a cry that contained months of suppressed rage, humiliation, and despair, Tansy lunged forward, the steak knife clutched in her fist. Sheikh Majid reacted with surprising quickness, twisting away from her initial thrust. The knife caught his arm rather than his chest, slicing through expensive fabric to draw a line of crimson across his bicep. "You stupid bitch," he snarled, all pretense of civilized negotiation abandoned. He grabbed her wrist, twisting savagely until she cried out in pain, the knife clattering to the marble floor. But Tansy was beyond rational thought, beyond calculation. Months of careful subservience had crystallized into pure, destructive fury. As he reached for his phone with his free hand, she drove her knee upward into his groin with all the strength desperation provided. Sheikh Majid doubled over, his grip on her wrist loosening enough for her to break free. She dove for the fallen knife, fingers closing around the handle just as he recovered sufficiently to lunge after her. They collided on the floor, his weight and strength overwhelming as he pinned her beneath him, one hand closing around her throat while the other sought to disarm her. "I offered you dignity," he gasped, blood from his arm wound staining his torn thobe. "Now you get nothing. Your brother gets nothing. And you'll face justice for attacking a member of the royal family." The pressure on her throat increased, darkness edging her vision. In a final, desperate movement, Tansy brought the knife up between them, feeling resistance. Then the sickening give of flesh as the blade slid between Sheikh Majid's ribs. His expression transformed from rage to shock. The pressure on her throat eased as he looked down at the knife handle protruding from his chest, a dark stain spreading across his white thobe. "You!" he managed, before collapsing sideways onto the marble floor. Tansy scrambled away, gasping for air, watching in horror as Sheikh Majid clutched futilely at the knife. Blood pooled beneath him, spreading in an ever-widening circle across the immaculate white marble. "Help?" he whispered, the single word containing genuine fear. Perhaps the first authentic emotion he had ever shown her. Some distant part of her. The nurse's aide who had cared for her dying father, the sister who tended Miguel's injuries when he harmed himself, recognized that she should apply pressure, call for assistance, attempt to save him. But she remained frozen, watching as his breathing became increasingly labored, as the light in his eyes dimmed from outrage to confusion to nothing at all. Sheikh Majid bin Sultan died on the floor of a luxury resort suite, surrounded by opulence, utterly alone except for the woman he had systematically destroyed. A woman he had never truly seen until her final, desperate act made her impossible to ignore. Tansy sat against the wall, staring at his motionless form, waiting for horror or remorse to overtake her. Instead, she felt only a terrible clarity. She had crossed a line from which there was no return. Whatever happened now, arrest, imprisonment, execution, Miguel would suffer the consequences of her actions. Unless, with mechanical precision, she rose and moved to the bathroom, washing blood from her hands and face. She examined her uniform for stains, finding several that would require attention. From the closet, she retrieved Sheikh Majid's business jacket, using it to handle the knife without leaving additional fingerprints as she removed it from his body. The service elevator would be monitored. The main corridor would be as well. But the Peninsula Suite, where Sheikh Majid normally stayed, connected to the Royal Mariner through a private exterior walkway designed for VIPs who required additional privacy. That path might offer escape. 20 minutes later, Tansy walked through the main lobby of the Palm Crescent Resort, uniform immaculate, expression professionally neutral. She nodded to the concierge, to the security guard, to the valet who held the door. "Good evening, Miss Villanueva," he said, not yet aware of her termination. "Finished for the day?" "Yes," she replied, voice steady. "Just wrapping up some final details." In her bag was Sheikh Majid's phone, his wallet, and the envelope containing the documentation that would secure Miguel's care. Documentation she had modified to extend funding indefinitely rather than for 6 months. A digital signature copied from other papers, a changed date, a removed limitation. Whether it would withstand scrutiny remained to be seen, but it offered the only chance for her brother's security. The night air felt unnaturally cool against her face as she walked away from the resort, from her career, from the life she had built. Tomorrow, Sheikh Majid's body would be discovered. Security footage would show her entering the suite. The hunt would begin, and given who he was, it would be relentless. But tonight, she had a small window, hours perhaps, to transfer what funds she could access, to make arrangements for Miguel's continued care through third parties, to establish whatever protections might survive the coming storm. She would not escape justice. She did not deserve to. But perhaps, with careful planning in these final hours of freedom, she might ensure that Miguel would not bear the full weight of her actions. That something good might emerge from this devastating conclusion. That her brother's care, the purpose that had driven every decision, every compromise, might somehow continue despite the blood on her hands. As police sirens wailed in the distance, Tansy disappeared into the Dubai night, a ghost already haunting the luxury paradise she had once served with such perfect, fatal precision.